My Hero Academia, Chapter 243, Onwards to the Endeavor Hero Agency. So this was a really solid chapter. Quite a bit of things happened, so there's a lot to talk about, and I really like the way that this arc is shaping up. So let's get into it. So we're finding out that it's currently New Year's Eve and that the students are allowed to return home for at least like one day for the holidays, but they're still on such high priority because of their security risk that pro heroes need to escort them while they're doing this. So we see like Cementos is sent individually just for Izuku to go visit his mom. And while he's there, he catches her up on everything. But this is like the yearly check-in with Izuku's mom that we get every so often in the series. Like, we need to just acknowledge that, hey, she's still a character. She still cares about Izuku and she needs to be updated on things and whatnot. But as the series has progressed, she's become less and less relevant in the story. And I understand it needs to focus on other things and we need to get Izuku away from his family to have him develop on his own. But I still do feel that there's some, secret significance to his mom, but that's a topic for another time. So then it cuts to Hawks, and we see him at the Liberation Front estate, and I'm thinking that Hawks is going to be a major player in this arc. Considering the way things are playing out in the rest of this chapter, but also, Hawks is more relevant to the story than he ever has been right now. He has a pretty significant storyline that has all kind of implications on it. So the more focus on him, the better, especially because we all love Hawks and he's a super cool character. And then we see Slide and Go confront him because he's suspicious about him leaving without telling anyone, as he rightfully should be. But there's something weird about Slide and Go. I think he's just like an odd character in general because ever since we originally first saw him, I think back in Chapter 219 at the beginning of the Villain Academia, he's always been like this weird type of figure. And of course we know because he's a double agent, he is a pro hero, but at the same time, his allegiance is to the Liberation Front. But, we also see that he has, a chip on his shoulder here. He's like, you need to tell us what you're doing, and that my rank is higher than yours. I'm also older than you. So this might play into, Slide and Go, being a foil to Hawks in this arc. Maybe he's going to try to tell, the Liberation Front that Hawks shouldn't be trusted, and maybe he's going to try to use Hawks as, a stepping stone to get himself in better ranks or just better praises with the Liberation Front in general. But then that moves us to a surprising development here where Skeptic comes out of nowhere and is on the side of Hawks. He praises Hawks and puts down Slide and Go at the same time. And just talks about how much of an asset Hawks is to the Liberation Front and how Slide and Go is kind of insignificant compared to him. And we get this nice little diorama, I guess if you want to call it, where we see how it works, how Hawks is in the center of the kingdom and how Slide and Go is kind of just past the first wall and that everyone else, the people, are just on the outside looking in. This reminds me of Paradise Island from Attack on Titan. Maybe that's the inspiration that Horikoshi got here, or maybe it's just some other landmark. I think there's something that kind of looks like this in France as well, but we're developing kind of a bromance here between Skeptic and Hawks. And hey, I like it. I think it's pretty cool, but this could just be forming also a triangle here. Because like I said, Slide and Go could be the foil to Hawks, but then at the same time, Skeptic could be the one that's helping him. We typically see this a lot when storylines kind of like this happen, when there's an inside man who's a double agent or something, and he just befriends somebody that's on the inside, and then they kind of have this tragic relationship where the person trusts him, and then they ultimately find out that they were a traitor all along, and then that whole big thing comes to fruition. But then at the same time, they kind of push somebody else out that's already been on the inside and get them to go away. But at the same time, they kind of make them dig deeper and try to expose Hawks, for example, here even more so. And that's what I kind of see happening with Skeptic and Slide and Go. And then we see the flashback of Hawks talking to the government. And this is who Hawks is aligned to the most. This is really who's pulling the strings for Hawks here. Because he's kind of like a triple agent in a way. Because we know that he's working with the heroes. He's with them, of course. But then he's also with the Liberation Front. But then he's behind the scenes of everything. He's with the government. And that's what this all is about. They're kind of giving him permission to do essentially anything he wants to get the job done here, which in theory could be just straight up killing Best Jeanist. Now, it remains to be seen if that is true. There could be a whole bigger thing to this, Best Jeanist decided to work with Hawks and went MIA for a little bit just to show that he was taken out, to get the trust of the Liberation Front, more or less, because, you know, there was that whole weird scene where, like, Dabi was like, well, you definitely killed somebody. It remains to be seen if it's Vegeta. So it could be like a body duplicate or something. We talked about this before, but we're finding out, like, the ultimate goal or the main motive of Hawks doing all of this, getting on the inside. What I'm pretty sure is what they're revealing here is that he says, I'd like to locate where the Nomus are being produced as soon as possible. And that makes sense because they are the biggest threat, by far. Because, like, Hawks firsthand knows that they are outrageously overpowered. Just one of them, who probably isn't the most powerful, pushed Hawks and Endeavor to, like, their limits. Now, Hawks wasn't really that into the fight as much as Endeavor was, but Endeavor being the #1 hero, ultra high diffed to the point of where he almost died just taking down one of these things. So it makes sense that he ultimately wants to track down where the rest of these are because, you know, he doesn't even know that there's 10 of these things or however many more there are. So then it cuts to Endeavor with the big three, and I like that we're just cutting to the chase here. Like, they're there, Endeavor's there, and we're just getting the show on the road here. No more beating around the bush. And I like the fake out that we get with Endeavor. And I kind of fell for it at first, you know, because he's like, welcome to Endeavor's Hero Agency. And then just the next panel is like, psych, as if I'd ever be that friendly. I only accepted you guys because Shoto asked me, and it's awesome. You know, and this still is development for Endeavor. He's changed a lot. Obviously, he's had the whole redemption arc, but he's still not, you know, completely domesticated. He's still going to have, you know, the tsundere, or whatever you want to say, aspect to him. And I also like that they point out the similarities between him and Bakugo in this chapter, because it's always kind of been there. And they've both kind of gone through development that has changed them from being completely unredeemable, you know, just completely unlikable and kind of psychotic in a way, to just being like jerks, more or less, but good-hearted, you know, good intentions. And of course, we have the similarities between All Might and Endeavor, and then of course Izuku and Bakugo. And also, I'm pretty sure this is like the first time that Bakugo and Endeavor are like meeting, or at least talking to each other, as far as I remember, which is very interesting. I've always wanted these characters to meet, but now that we have a whole arc centered around them, I'm sure they're going to get some time to talk and develop their own sort of relationship as well. So then Endeavor tries to immediately just start this whole internship in his own way. You know, like I said, he is good-hearted and he does have good intentions with this, but like we see him just being Endeavor about it when he's like, unfortunately, I have no plans to concern myself with anyone but Shoto, and he just hops the fence. And he's like, if you want to learn from me, watch me from behind. So he's not saying screw you guys, but it's like, look, I got to do things my way. And if you want to go about this, then just, you know, keep up with me, more or less. And we see that that's exactly what they do. They team up right behind him, which is awesome. We have that nice little panel where they're all squatted up. And then, conveniently, there's just this random villain that shows up just in the nick of time. He's like a wizard-looking dude, like maybe like a Middle Eastern type of vibe on him, kind of. And he has like these orbs, which kind of look like Minetas, I guess, but of course they're not going to be the same. But it seems like he has some kind of orb quirk, like maybe he just has the ability to manipulate orbs, like that's his thing. It remains to be seen if he can like create them, but he's definitely able to manipulate them. They have him like floating up, and we see him shooting them everywhere. And it seems like this guy's probably just crazy because he's talking about some prophecy that's obviously not true. Unless he does have some kind of weird clairvoyant powers. Or maybe he's talking about something bigger. Maybe like the Liberation Front, possibly. Maybe he somehow knows about that. It remains to be seen. I'm sure this guy is just going to job to Endeavor and the Big Three. Just, you know, as a little appetizer at the beginning of this arc. But then also coincidentally, Hawks is here, and that's what I was saying about earlier. I feel like Hawks is going to be a major player in this arc because he's here, and he's probably going to swoop in and at the same time meet up with Endeavor and the Big Three, and then we're going to get, you know, the meeting between the Big Three and Hawks, which I don't think they've met before, and that's going to be pretty cool. But at the same time, he has the special abilities Liberation Front, the manifesto in his hand, so maybe they're going to catch that he's holding that. Possibly, unless he doesn't put it away in time, and then that's going to be like, why do you have that? And then maybe one of them, you know, probably Izuku is going to start putting the pieces together. Possibly I feel like something's going to happen that's going to like start them to be suspicious of Hawks eventually, maybe. because he is holding the book and he's there at the same time. So regardless, I just really hope that they all come together here, and I hope that Hawks is a bigger part of this arc. But that's pretty much it for the chapter, and unfortunately, they're going to be on break next week, but it's fine. Horikoshi is really good with this stuff. He goes on very long streaks with the chapter releases. So one break, every now and then is no problem. And I'm sure it's going to be awesome once it picks back up. But let me know what you thought about all of this in the comments. Where do you see things headed with Hawks? And if you liked it, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.